Hey guys, sorry I couldn't be there today. So instead, I will make some flip lectures so we can stay on track so we'll be able to Kahoot on Wednesday. So today, what I want you to do is either watch this with some earbuds. If not, you can be working on your section reviews or on the Gilgamesh essay, and you can watch this for homework. Today we want to learn about some different civilizations that we didn't get through yesterday. We left off with the Hittites, and then I think I might have introduced the Assyrians, but I'll go over that again. So the Assyrians come down and take over the Hittites, and they're an extremely militaristic society. They come down around 1100 BC, and then one of the first what we call militaristic societies, meaning that every young man in the entire civilization is basically raised to fight in the military, and every people they conquer, they have joined their military. So very fierce people, very intimidating people, and they're very much going to sweep down and take over most of Mesopotamia and most of the Middle East and even Egypt. So they're going to be a great conquering power at points. They're going to rule for about 500 years, but not just through intimidation. They're also going to be great at ordering the societies they conquer. So when they conquer you, even though they're going to be very mean to you when they're conquering you, they're going to bring order, justice, law, and things to you and allow you to join into their civilization if you pay taxes, send people into the military, and the like. This society too is going to have some sweeping changes that will become part of Middle Eastern culture, in particularly in what it will be later Arab and later Islamic culture. The Assyrians are the first people to say that when an upper class woman leaves the house, she must be covered from head to toe. And you'll see that a lot in Islamic civilizations today, but that custom actually goes back to the very ordered ideas that the Assyrians had over their people, and in particular their women. So again, you're pretty much, if you're a woman in this society, confined to the house. But if you do go out with your husband, you are covered from head to toe, and that becomes just something that in many Middle Eastern civilizations, even up till today, is important. Another big aspect of the Assyrians is that they do pursue knowledge. They are very fierce, but they're also very into recording and also collecting cuneiform. And their great leader, whose name is Ashurbanipal, is actually going to found the first library in the capital city of Nineveh. They have dual capitals. One's named Ashur and one is called Nineveh. In Nineveh, the king Ashurbanipal is going to build this giant place where he's going to collect cuneiform tablets from all around his empire and have them brought there to educate future generations. So the Assyrians are interesting. In one regard, they like to destroy, and in another regard, they like to create. And if you're interested in some of their military methods, you can do a little more research on that. They're very intimidating. Here you can see how much land they actually conquer over the years. You can see they kind of start off right here, Nineveh, Ashur. Over here, they grow out in this area, and then eventually they're going to conquer all this with their great military. And here we see from one of their temples, you can see they actually made like siege equipment. You see the siege equipment bang into the wall of their adversaries. And here we kind of see an artist representation of their fierce battle style, and also the fact that their technology is just that much better. Eventually, though, they will fade out and another civilization will take them over. And again, this civilization is going to come from a place we've already learned about, the city of Babylon. We're going to call this the Neo Babylonian or the Second Babylonian Empire that will come and kind of sweep up the remnants of Assyrian Empire. Again, we're moving pretty far from where we started in 2100 BC with Sargon, or 2300 BC with Sargon. We're now at 612 BC. So we've looked at a lot of different time periods in this era, in this area, I should say. So 612 BC, a leader named King Nebuchadnezzar of the city-state of Babylon conquers an empire that basically stretches from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean Sea, pretty much most of the Fertile Crescent, a little less than the Assyrian Empire before it. You may have heard of Nebuchadnezzar before, probably from the Bible, and you'll see why that is. As I said, he unites Mesopotamia under Babylonian rule. And another big thing you might have heard that he had created, if you've ever heard of the Seven Wonders of the Ancient World, one of those is called the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. That is actually built by Nebuchadnezzar. It's a cute story. His wife, one of his wives, was from a very mountainous region of the Middle East, and Babylon's obviously is very flat and kind of arid, and she got really homesick. So he had a giant ziggurat built, and he planted trees all over it, which allowed for it to look kind of like a mountain to try to make her less homesick. So that's extremely romantic. Not very romantic was the fact that he actually conquers Judea and where the Hebrews lived in Canaan, and he takes the Hebrews into exile in Babylon. And you've probably heard about the Babylonian captivity of the Israelites. That's happening at this point under King Nebuchadnezzar, and you'll learn about that probably much more in your theology classes. So that's really what you want to know about the Neo-Babylonians: Hanging Gardens, Nebuchadnezzar, and the conquering of the Hebrews. And here again, you see kind of a super large empire, not as big as the Assyrians, but you'll see it pretty much encapsulates the Fertile Crescent. And here is an artist representation of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Is that what they looked like? We don't know. They're not there anymore. So something kind of like this. Last but not least, we'll talk about the greatest empire we're going to look at this point, the largest empire, and an important empire because we're going to also hear about it when we talk about the ancient Greeks in chapter 5. And this is going to be the Persian Empire. So here you can see everything in yellow on this map is going to be the extent of the Persian Empire. So extremely large empire with some really important ideas that they're going to give to other empires in history of how do you rule well over a diverse group of people. So the person who's going to be most responsible for beginning the great conquest of the Persian Empire is their leader Cyrus the Great. Cyrus the Great is basically going to begin the policy of military expansion, and basically between 550 and 530 BC, he's going to conquer a huge swath of land coming from originally what we would call the modern nation state of Iran, but all the way into the Middle East. In 539 BC, he's going to actually take over the failing Babylonian, Neo-Babylonian Empire, and that's going to fall to his armies. And you'll actually hear about this in the Bible because King Cyrus is going to release the Hebrews to go home after their exile. He's going to conquer the largest empire we've yet seen in history. He's going to have Asia Minor, parts of India, modern-day Iran, Egypt, Afghanistan, Pakistan, the Middle East, pretty much between the Tigris and Euphrates, all over. He's going to control that entire area until eventually even Egypt will fall under the rule of this great empire. Now he's going to do something different that we haven't seen yet. He's going to rule under an idea we call tolerance. And this idea of tolerance pretty much means that when he conquers you, he's not mean to you. He lets you keep the way you dress. He lets you keep the way you talk. He lets you keep your religion. He lets you keep your way of life. In exchange, you give him taxes and troops for his military. And that makes people much more prone to want to be under Persian rule. And here we see Cyrus the Great, a carving of what he probably looked like. Again, though, the idea of tolerance, it's so revolutionary and it's so essential if you're going to rule over a bunch of different people. Let them keep their stuff as long as they give you allegiance, taxes, and troops for your military. After a couple years of civil war, after the death of Cyrus, a new leader in Persia is going to emerge. His name is Darius the First. And he's going to rule from about 522 to 486 BC. Under Darius, we're really going to get a government that becomes a model for uniting many peoples together. The idea is going to be that he's going to continue tolerance, but make his huge empire even more united. First of all, he's going to realize he can't be everywhere at once. So he's going to break his government into a bunch of different administrative provinces. We call those provinces satrapies. And each satrapy is going to have a governor that he chooses put in charge of it. We call those governors satraps or a satrap. And he basically says, while I'm not there, you rule for me. But he realizes too, though, that he can't trust all these people implicitly if he's not around. So he's going to actually send out spies to spy on all these governors and make sure they're doing what he wants. And he's also going to travel around all the time in his empire. So he'll just show up randomly to make sure everything's being done as he wants. So that's really a big strategy he uses to keep this really large multi-ethnic, multinational empire under a firm control. Also, too, he's going to do something that all empires that are large need to do. He's going to build a huge system of roads that he can use to send royal officials back and forth to collect taxes, to send information, all those things. So the system of roads that he builds is going to basically inspire people like the Romans later to understand that to run an empire, you must have quick communication and quick travel. And you really need a good system of roads to do that, just like we have here in the United States. Our highway system is built in the 1950s so that we can move troops real quickly and information real quickly. It's just the government allows us to use our cars on those roads. Another big idea is that he introduces a common economy. So in his empire, people would use different currency, different weights, all these things. He says, nope, you can't use different weights and stuff. You have to use the same measurements, the same weights. And he also introduces coins that he mints himself. He actually steals this from a people he conquers called the Lydians, this idea of like making a coin that the government gives out to everybody. So the government controls finances. And so that's really important. And so he's going to move his civilization from a barter economy, which would be like you trade things back and forth, like I give you 6 goats for 1 horse or something like that, to a money economy where the government issues a currency. That currency is used to pay for things. So that's a huge deal there. And so when you think of the Persians, you want to know Cyrus the Great, you want to know Darius, you want to know tolerance, you want to know satraps and satrapies, what those are. You want to know about a common weights and measure economy, a money economy versus a barter economy, road systems, all those things. Really complex empire, and we're going to hear a lot about them because, first of all, newer empires are going to always look back and say, how did the Persians do it? And also, too, when we get to Greece, we're going to see the small Greek city-states are going to come in direct confrontation with Darius and his large empire. So we'll be hearing about him again, so don't forget him. And here we see is an image carved of Darius himself. All right, so I'll cover the Phoenicians probably in class real quick before we Kahoot, and then we'll spend the rest of Wednesday reviewing and all that last period. So again, just sorry I couldn't be there today. Make sure you do watch this at some point. We'll go over it a little bit in class. I can answer any questions you might have. And then tomorrow we'll go over the Phoenicians. It's one slide real quick, and then we'll be ready to Kahoot and review for your quest, which will be on Friday. All right, guys, have a great day. And again, sorry I couldn't be there, and we'll see everybody tomorrow.